Konbanwa and Guten Abend and welcome to my home here on the west of Scotland. We are delighted to be part of the DJW concert and we are on the banks of the River Clyde. So I want to take you to the banks of the River Clyde where on a good day you can see across the water to the mountains. This is called Water's Edge. Arigato, danke. So we're going to stay on the west coast of Scotland, and this next song is inspired by the beautiful light that we often get in Scotland, and you can see some of it actually coming through the window today, but especially that lovely low light. We sometimes call it the gloaming, just at dusk when the sun is setting and there's this beautiful glow of light to everything. So this song is called My Love and Me, and I'm going to invite the lovely David Lyon to appear on this, although he won't appear on your screen, but you will hear him, and well, I'm not going to tell you what instrument he's going to play, but you will hear it coming through hopefully. Okay. My Love and Me. Catching the last of the low turns to the sea, tracing our way in the shadows. That's where you'll find my love and me. That's where you'll find my love and me. dusk falls, that's where you'll find my love and me. That's where you'll find my love and me. Winter brings the waiting, stone and callous cold, but our love is fire, forging, growing, calling the stars to behold us, restless until we are free, folding the sky with its promise. That's where you'll find my love and me. That's where you'll find my love and me. Winter brings the waiting, stone and callous cold, always a beginning, forging, growing. Catching the last of the low light before it returns to the sea, tracing our way in the shadows. That's where you'll find my love and me. 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 Thank you. And thank you to David Lyon on the accordion. And I'm going to stay with the guitar for this next song. I wrote an album called These Small Rebellions, which was a few after the album that Jürgen mentioned, the Fearless album. And These Small Rebellions came from a quote which really inspired me. And the song, The Beginning of Everything, which I'm going to sing next, really has the title in the song. And this song was inspired by a Valentine's card as well as the quote. And the Valentine's card was sent to me by the lovely David Lyon. And it talked about the beginning of everything. It said, I love you, and that's the beginning of everything. And that's an F. Scott Fitzgerald quote. And I was also inspired by Mother Teresa. She said, we can do no great things, we can do only small things with great love. So in this troubled time, sometimes we are overwhelmed by what we cannot do, but sometimes it's the small things that we can do that make all the difference. The beginning of everything. These marks we make with all of the strength that remains, drawing our shapes in the dust, breathing in life. These fears we face with all of the doubts that we share, trembling our way to the edge, crossing the line. These small rebellions are greater than anything, dreamers and lovers and friends. Here in this moment, forever is changing. Let's give all we have just to find the beginning of everything. that sustains, mending the seams and the tears turning to light. These small rebellions are greater than anything, dreamers and lovers and friends. Here in this moment forever is changing. Let's give all we have just to find the beginning in the river that runs. In the sunrise tomorrow may bring, there are no guarantees when we risk love. These small rebellions are greater than anything, dreamers and lovers and friends. Here in this moment forever is changing. Let's give all we have just to find the beginning. These small rebellions are greater than anything, dreamers and lovers and friends. Here in this moment forever is changing. Let's give all we have just to find the beginning of everything. Let's give all we have just to find the beginning of everything. Arigato, danke. Thank you very much. So I really couldn't sing to you from Scotland and from the west of Scotland, just up from Ayrshire, where our bard, our most famous poet lived, Robert Burns. And I'd love to sing to you a song, or certainly a poem that was written by Robert Burns. I'm not sure where the music came from, but it's very old. And this is a song called A Fond Kiss, and it's a beautiful love poem by Robert Burns, who was notorious for having many loves in his life. And it's claimed that this love that he was writing about, this love was a platonic love, but I'm not so sure when you hear the words, and you might not understand some of them are in broad Scots language, but I hope that you get the sense of this beautiful lyric. A Fond Kiss. A fond kiss, and then we sever. A farewell, and then forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears, I'll pledge thee. Warring sighs and groans, I'll wage thee. Who shall say that fortune grieves him, while the star of hope she leaves him? Mean a cheerful twinkle lights me, dark despair around benights me. I'll nae blame my partial fancy, Nathan could resist my Nancy, but to see her was to love her, love but her, and love forever. Oh, forever. Had we never loved so blindly, had we never loved so kindly, never met or never parted, we and kiss, and then we sever. If it will and then forever, deep in heart-wrung tears, I'll pledge thee, warring sighs and groans I'll wage thee. Thank you. So from Robbie Burns, from our poet Robbie Burns, back to my own songs. And this is a song which I wrote just down the road from our living room here. And I wrote it when I was driving through our town. Our town's called Greenock, just west of Glasgow. And I had all sorts of things going on in my head, all sorts of worries, all sorts of fears. And I was driving through and I stopped at a set of traffic lights and I saw this woman crossing the pedestrian crossing and she was holding her little girl's hand. And this little girl, this wee girl, she had so many difficulties, but for some reason she looked at me sitting in my car and she gave me a huge smile and she waved. And just for that moment, so many things were put into perspective. And so I came home and I sat in this very room and I wrote this next song. And this song is called Everything's Fine. And it was almost like that little girl was saying, do you know what? Everything's fine. And again, I know right now that everything is not fine in the world, but sometimes, again, it's the smallest things that can just attract our attention and remind us of the bigger picture. So everything's fine. And if you pick up the chorus, you're very welcome to sing along on this one. Okay. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. She was smaller than I'd hoped for. I would have recognized her sooner had there been a shining light or white wings and a halo like you see in all the movies. But heaven has a way of sometimes sneaking upon you, and all eternity wrapped up in her smile. She whispered with her eyes, everything's fine, just fine. Everything's fine, just fine. The lights had turned to red and I was safe in my defenses. I didn't see her kindness coming for the nonsense in my head. A devastating moment in a language far from spoken. She looked deep in my soul and then she stole away my heart. And all eternity wrapped up in her smile, she whispered with her eyes, everything's fine, just fine. Everything's fine, just fine. Everything's fine, just fine. Everything's fine, just fine. Today I saw an angel. She was smaller than I'd hoped for. I would have recognized her sooner had there been a shining light or white wings and a halo like you see in all the movies. But heaven has a way of sometimes sneaking upon you, and all eternity wrapped up in her smile. She whispered with her eyes, everything's fine, just fine. Everything's fine, just fine. Everything's fine, just fine. Everything's fine, just fine. Thank you, and thank you once again to David Lyon for playing the accordion for us today. And we sometimes call it the box of joy because it, quite frankly, is such a lovely, beautiful sound that it brings instant joy. So I hope you were feeling that across the airwaves and across our time together. So I'm really missing playing to people because I love the fact that we can enjoy time together in a space, that we can interact. So I hope that you feel you can interact with me today and with us at DJW with the question and answers after the concert today and this evening, wherever you're watching. And we'd be delighted to take some questions, and I'd be very, very happy to answer them if you're wanting to find out more. And you can do that on the YouTube link. You can do it in the feed, on the YouTube feed, and you can ask your questions to me right after this concert. So we'd love it if you were able to do that and interact, and it gives us a sense of where you are and who is listening and who's watching, and perhaps how you are part of DJW. It would be lovely to hear your connection, because this is all about connection. And we cannot perhaps be together in person, but we can be together in spirit, and we can connect in many different ways. And that's what's wonderful about the internet and about all the technology that we have at our fingertips. So I hope we can stay connected. This is actually my last song for today. It's interesting because the pandemic really has made us think very much about now, hasn't it? And we can't think too far into the future. And a friend of mine once said to me, Yvonne, you really need to enjoy life a bit more. She said, you tend to endure it. And I thought about that for a moment, and then I thought, actually, she is absolutely right. And it's only good friends that can say that sort of thing and get away with it. But she was absolutely right. And it's funny because the pandemic has made me think of when we are in Scotland at New Year's Eve, and we call it Hogmanay, where we love to party and we love to look back at our past, and we get really depressed. And then we look at our present situation, and on Hogmanay, we get really depressed. And then we look at our future, and by that time, yes, we've had a few whiskies and perhaps too many whiskies. And I was thinking about that because during Christmas and New Year, we can forget what time of the day it is, we can forget what time of the year it is, and sometimes that's been happening under the pandemic as well. Time is very strange. So I was thinking about those things as I wrote this song, and I suppose it's interesting because as a songwriter, you write a song at a particular time, and it means something to you then, but it can mean something entirely different in a new circumstance. And that's the way I feel about this song. So I really hope that this one is one that just encourages you to enjoy the moments in life, no matter where you are and what you're going through. We were not made for living with regrets. And I've loved singing for you this afternoon. I have been delighted to be part of this event with DJW, and I give thanks to Jurgen and Michaela for inviting me to be part of this, and Imra for putting it all together, and Anna for hosting, so thank you. Enjoy, not endure. For the truth we often cling to, and silence we ignore, for the moment's peace that's shattered by the clamour that we hoard, for the thanks so thinly offered, and the graces that we grudge, for the praise too proud to sing of, and the promises nights awake with dread for the words too harshly spoken and the many left unsaid, for the anger that we lavish and the joy we sometimes lose, for the wisdom disregarded by the foolishness we choose. Recognize and mourn the days that never will return. You were made for greater things than living with regret. Here's to enjoy it and not to endure. For the time too quickly squandered and the love so calmly spared, for the plans that turned to ruin by the dreams we've left uncared. Recognize and mourn the days that never will return. You were made for greater things than living with regret. Here's to enjoy and not to endure. For the truth we often cling to and the silence we ignore, for the moment's peace that's shattered by the clamor that we hoard, for the thanks so thinly offered and the graces that we grudge, for the praise too proud to sing of and the promises of much. Recognize and mourn the days that never will return. You were made for greater things than living with regret. Here's to enjoy and not to endure. Here's to enjoy and not to endure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. I love the atmosphere you were setting. It was amazing. I just felt like sitting right next to you in a really fireplace atmosphere, not just by your living room, but also by your music. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Danke.
As proposed, we would like to open the floor for questions from the audience, and I see some questions already popping in. Actually, the first one from Right to Your Neighborhood, from Michaela. She asked when you started playing and how old you were when you wrote your very first song.
Okay, so I was always making up songs. I was always sitting at the piano. We had an old acoustic piano and there were letter names on the keys, so I was able to work out what letters I could play. But really I was lost. I was about 5. I used to get lost in making up tunes. I learned how to play the little nursery rhyme Lavender's Blue Dilly Dilly, and I loved to make up tunes around that. So that was really the beginning for me. But My first songs, I was probably a teenager, 12 or 13, and I began to write lyrics to go with those melodies on the piano. But probably more importantly, I began to rebel against my piano lessons because I took up the guitar and I taught myself to play the guitar. And the guitar is such an intimate instrument that I felt that lyrics and stories began to flow as I played the guitar. So really, yeah, I was about 12 or 13 when I was first beginning to put lyrics and music together.
And I know there's a second question from Jürgen.
Yeah, I'll shove that in right away. Yvonne, when you write your music, how is the process? How you get a special environment, or is it just hitting you right where you are? Do you enjoy some sacred spaces, or what is the kind of the process that you enjoy most when writing music?
Well, I absolutely love to have time to myself, and I call it thinking time. Most people wonder what I do with my day. I spend a lot of time thinking, processing, distilling. I love to go for walks in nature. And as you know, Jürgen, this part of the world that we live in is so beautiful. So I can walk down the road from this room and I can be on the River Clyde. I can look across to the mountains. There were porpoises in the river the other week. And so there's lots to inspire. But I also love to pick up people's stories and to catch people's stories. And so sometimes I will just have an idea of something that someone said, and I will be spending time at the piano playing, and that will come together. Sometimes it's the lyric first, sometimes it's the melody first. It changes, but the important thing is to have that space and that time. Although as everything's fine, the song that I played with the accordion earlier shows the songs can come just like that when you're driving the car, or so I always have to have my phone with me, and I have to make sure that I record those little ideas, and quite often some of my time is just spent going through those ideas and saying, oh, which ones that do I still love and want to make into songs. But it does take a lot of thinking time and solitude. But I do love to be with other people as well, and to work with other songwriters, and that's a very inspiring part of being a songwriter as well, to collaborate.
Thank you.
Perfect. Maybe I can join in with another question, asking how the current situation inspires you as well. Maybe not only helping yourself, but also helping other people with your music via your atmosphere, your feelings you're transporting, your emotions, to overcome this situation. Is it a rather optimistic or rather pessimistic feeling that you put into your songs right now?
Well, it's a great question, and I have to say, when this began, all of our live concerts were lost for both of us. And we had a moment where we just began to think, what on earth is going to happen? However, very quickly, I joined a songwriting group online. It was a friend of mine who I completed a master's in songwriting with. And she put together a community of writers purely to help us to write through lockdown. And it was on a Sunday. We'd be given a task every week, and a songwriting task. So we were writing to brief every week. And those subjects often talked about lockdown. One of them, for example, was a letter from Italy. Someone who sent a letter to us in the UK to say, look, this is happening. It was the most beautiful, poignant letter. And we were to base our songs around that letter. We could take anything from it. So the songwriting group that I joined was a fantastic way for me to remain focused as a songwriter, because it has been very hard. There are days where I wonder how it's all going to work out, and I find it very difficult. But the writing and the creative process has really helped me to maintain some optimism and, as I said, connection and community. So while we can't necessarily sing with people in the room, we can still write together as writers, we can inspire one another. And what was interesting was those songs weren't all depressing and they weren't all doom and gloom. They were actually, again, looking at the smaller things and celebrating what we have and looking to how we can perhaps even create a new community in the midst of this and how we can move forward together. So as a writer, some of those issues, yes, you have to tackle the issues as a writer. You have to face them, you have to be honest. So I like to think that my songwriting, even in the midst of this, is honest, but is also optimistic and hopeful. And so that's one way that I've stayed optimistic and to stay creative. So I would encourage anyone out there to seek out similar things if you are a creative, to connect with other people and inspire one another during this time.
Thank you very much for this very personal answer. There was one question. How do you think, maybe this relates to your answer already a little bit, but how do you think this current situation is shaping music and concerts after the pandemic? Is there going to be like a new normal, or is there maybe going to be another approach of hybrid events, being offline in concert halls, theaters, wherever, and streaming it live? Will there be another approach maybe happening? I'm looking forward to your perspective of singer-songwriter. Yeah,
that's another great question. And the beauty of creative people is that we're always reimagining things. And there was a scientist that said at the very beginning of this pandemic, the great thing that we have as the human race, we are always susceptible to disease. We are always susceptible to disease, but we have ingenuity as a race, as a species. We have ingenuity and we have imagination, and so we can overcome things, whether it's creative ideas for business or for technology or for all sorts of things, for science. And it's the same for the creative industries. We will continue to reimagine. It is difficult. There's no denying that it's going to be difficult. But the great thing that's been happening is there has been so much more collaboration, because artists are often known for being, they love their solitude and they love to do their own thing and perhaps have their own ego about their own creative output. But what I have discovered is that there has been lots more collaboration, lots more sharing, lots more helping one another. One thing that we decided to do was with our own online concerts, we've had to really learn, we've had to upskill, we've had to learn all sorts of technology. But we share our concerts. Some of our live concerts are musicians pledge concerts, and the idea behind this is so that we're not competing with this marketplace online, that we acknowledge that there is a place for everyone. And so our concerts, we take 50% of the fee and we pay forward 50% of the fee to another artist. And so there's almost like this branch of a tree that goes out for artists to continue their online concerts. And they continue to do that. They will go on and pledge the 50% to the next artist, and so on. And this was inspired by Matthew Burrows, who is an artist, a visual artist. And if you look out him on Instagram, you'll find him Michael Burrows, and it's the Artist Support Pledge. And so we took that idea and made it into the Musicians Support Pledge. So again, there's an idea and a way that we can support one another, because there are finances out there. We shouldn't all be competing for it, and we shouldn't all be competing for audiences. We can share our audiences with one another. But I do think there will need to be some sort of hybrid. Short term, at the moment, we're continuing with online concerts. Unfortunately, even here in the UK, venues will not be opening up for the foreseeable, well, certainly the next month. We're not sure how that's going to go, so we have to really wait and see. And so I think until that happens, still going to be streaming online, but I cannot wait for finding new ways to maybe have more intimate concerts with smaller numbers. I don't know how that's going to work out financially, but again, I hope that as creative communities, and I mean that across the spectrum, from venues to sound technicians to writers and performers, that we can find our way through. I'm sure we will.
I couldn't agree more to what you just said, and it doesn't only apply to the music and the artist industry. It applies to the global work and economy environment. To break it down again, DJW is also. This is actually the first live YouTube stream we are doing. Switching between Germany, Japan, and Scotland, and via Teams and YouTube, and I'm amazed how everything is working out just perfectly. And I tend to say this wouldn't have been possible without Corona pandemic. And as you just say, people learn or need to work more closely, hand in hand together to achieve common goals. This has been Corona has done some kind of good, yeah.
Yes.
There is actually, I know we didn't talk about this beforehand, people want to hear more of your music.
Okay.
Would you be ready to play one more song for us?
Oh, one more song. Okay, let me think what I could play. And there maybe be, I don't know if there's a request from Jürgen. I'm not sure if there would be a request.
Well, if you would be able to check in with something from the Fearless album, that would be great. It's one of my favorite albums. I have a signed copy of you, and that must have been something like 10 years ago. But feel free. It's just an idea. Okay.
I'm going to have a look and see what I feel like playing. What have I not played for you today that I would like to play? Oh, I'm going to play The Girl on the Flying Trapeze. Is that okay? I'm going to play that one. Again, this is an example of collaboration. And this song was written with a wonderful singer-songwriter called Buhurdin. And some of you, maybe in Japan, have come across Buhurdin. He tours with the wonderful Scottish singer-songwriter Eddie Reader, and I know that she spent a lot of time touring in Japan, and I'm sure Germany as well. And I wrote this song with Buhurdin. I've been writing with Buhurdin during the pandemic, and we're hoping to have another album, which is going to be called Things Found in Books, and it's little snippets of different things that were found inside old books in a library. So I will tease you with that idea, but I do have a new album coming out, and perhaps on the recording later on you will see some of the artwork. I wasn't able to show you the entire thing, but the artwork for the new album is right above me, and the new album is going to be called Growing Wild, and it will be out in November time, with a new single coming out on the 1st of September. So look out for that across my website and Facebook and Instagram and all these places. So this is Buhurdin and I, and this is The Girl on the Flying Trapeze. As my fingers left the bar, I saw the doubt was in your eyes. Now I was spinning over you. The heart is fearless when it flies. Even though I did not know, would you catch me? Would I fall? I never felt this much alive, but maybe I could lose it all. The girl on the flying trapeze. The girl on the flying trapeze. I did not want the lion tamer with too much sadness in his eyes. The clown, the human cannonball, none of them could make me whole. But But all I wanted was your love. I did not know how I should be. But as I flew above the crowd, I knew at last that I was free. The girl on the flying trapeze. 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 If I'm not yours and you're not mine, does it matter? I don't know. 'Cause some of us are holding on, and some of us are letting go.